Hi, and welcome to Real Talk with Cystic Fibrosis, the new series on the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's blog. My name is Piper Welsh, and I'm here with two of my good friends, Emily and Summer. And all of us are adults in our 30s living with cystic fibrosis. And we're just here to talk to you a little bit about our experiences and our lives. And specifically today, what we're going to touch on is expectations versus reality. And what we were told our lives would look like when we were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, and now sort of what our lives have turned out to be. So with that said, hi Summer, hi Emily.
Hi.
I'm just going to dive right in and ask the first question, which is, what were your parents told about your future with cystic fibrosis and what that might look like?
I'll take this one first. So I'm happy that what my parents were told didn't turn out the way, it didn't turn out the way they were told. So when I was diagnosed, I was 18 months old, and that was 1983. Some great music that year. But they told my parents I probably wouldn't live long enough to graduate from high school. That's not sweet. And unfortunately, a lot of people and a lot of my friends were told the same thing. And now I'm 33, if you can believe it. This is fake hair. It dyed. There's some gray in there. I know Summer can relate to that, right? But yeah, so things turned out a lot differently. I think my parents, when they got the news, they didn't have that mindset of my kid is going to die before she graduates from high school. They just said, okay, and treated me just like my brothers and everyone else. So things are way different than what they should have been, and it's because of the hard work that we're doing and the CFF is doing, and things are changing.
Yep, that would be pretty much what my parents were told too. I was diagnosed when I was 11 months old, and they just said, take her home. She's probably not going to live to be 10, and I'm 36. So, that's a huge accomplishment, and it is because of all the hard work that everyone has done and all the, great medical advancements that have taken place. So, yeah, my parents, they pretty much didn't agree with the doctors and just said, we're going to fight and fight like heck. and and that's what we did. And here I am.
I'm going to interject there and say it's also because of the way that you take care of yourself, Summer. You're very vigilant, and you do what you're supposed to do, go the extra mile.
I'm very compliant.
Very compliant.
Well, so I think every CF story of someone in their 30s who was diagnosed young is sort of similar in that sense, because we were all told to expect this sort of dire predictions for our future. And so many of us have surpassed that. I was diagnosed at 6 weeks old. I got double pneumonia and failure to thrive, so I was diagnosed fairly early. But my parents were told, and we still use this line all the time because it's like embedded in our familial consciousness. I think this is part of our like family mythology at this point. But the doctor literally, when he handed my parents the test results for my sweat test, which is how I was diagnosed, they said, well, what are we supposed to do now? And the doctor said, you take her home and you love her as long as you have her. And my dad said, I think similar to, heck no, like Summer did. And they went out right after that, and they didn't have Google at the time, as you can imagine. Right. This was 1981. But they immediately started placing some phone calls, and they found the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And that's when they decided that they were going to work as hard as they could to change that future, which I'd imagine, were you guys involved in cystic fibrosis sort of community and research growing up as well?
Yes, I was. My parents actually started the chapter here locally after I was diagnosed. So they wanted, to just start everything that they could. And thank goodness there wasn't Google then. And,
right, yeah.
they just gave it all that they could. And here we are. But
Yeah, my parents, they did, I was doing the Bull for Breath, and some other cool little things around town. And my parents, I mean, we keep saying, thank goodness we didn't have Google. And it's so true. My parents just didn't rely on anything to be how they were going to navigate our life. They just treated me like everyone else. And I think it really pays off. It paid off.
And I
yeah,
think
no limitations too, I think. Sorry,
Yeah.
Piper, but yeah, I just think, there wasn't really limitations put on us back then, and we just kind of lived our lives, the best that we could, and, wanted, to fight as hard as we could as well. And, it's definitely different today, of course, but kind of glad I was diagnosed when I was.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, Emily, you said something that sort of resonated with me too, because you mentioned your brothers, but I had an older a non-CF sister. So I have a sister who she's a carrier, but she doesn't have cystic fibrosis. And I think my parents just sort of didn't know how to raise a child any way other than they were raising her. They weren't going to like do different things for me than they did for my sister. And so, she played soccer, I played soccer. She rode horses, I rode horses. I was better than her, the horses. She was better than me at the soccer, so fair enough. But, we both developed into totally different people. I mean, she's a fashion designer, I'm a lawyer. But I think our parents, just in terms of having goals and pushing us, they couldn't tell one child, oh, get the best grades you can because you're going to go to college, and then tell the other child, hey, cool, just slack off, just stay home. It's cool.
You have CF. Yeah, you can do whatever you
Here's some bubble wrap. Let's wrap you up in that.
Nope. Yeah, no, I think the only difference between me and my brothers was I had to wake up earlier to get pounded and, do jumping jacks and do anything I could to cough that mucus out.
Yep.
Did you guys have the table that was sort of like an ironing board that you had to lie on so they would pound you?
Mine was orange.
I did.
It was awesome.
We used pillows.
Oh, we had a table. Literally, it looked like an ironing board that slanted down, and my parents would be like whack, whack, whack. And I think that was their biggest concern, actually, when I was really little, is how was I going to be independent? Because at that time, the treatments were really so dependent on having somebody else there to administer the therapy. But then we got all these great new vests.
Technology.
It was perfect.
Heck yes.
So, okay, we're going to move on, and I'm going to ask a related question, which is also sort of about growing up, which is, what did cystic fibrosis mean to you as a child when you were growing up? And Summer, I guess we'll start with you on this one.
Okay. Growing up, I don't know if I gave it much thought besides, my daily poundings and being just a little bit different than everyone else, but not too much. And, I don't feel like it really limited me. I tried out for soccer and dance, and I was a cheerleader, so I didn't really let it limit me. And, I just kind of, lived a normal life, as normal as I could, I guess, with some certain, limitations, I guess, with pounding early in the morning. And I think when I was 8, I was on oxygen for a little bit at nighttime. And also, growing up, I didn't tell a lot of people that I had CF, so only my close family and friends knew. So I just didn't want to be treated differently, and there was really no reason why I felt like I had to tell people, because we don't look sick. So I didn't really feel like people needed to know if they weren't that close. So that's kind of how I grew up. And so I didn't give it too much thought. It was just my normal, and I don't know anything different, and I didn't then either. So grew up that way.
Did you just say you're normal?
Funny.
Oh,
funny.
How about you give us a little cheer, Summer?
Maybe later.
Mine obviously is very similar to that, where my parents never made CF our focus. So we just lived life around it. And I knew that my parents beat me a few times a day. and we had to
They would have
get
done that anyway, though, right, Emily?
okay. Well, we were really being nice to each other today. Yeah, they would have, right? Enzymes when I ate, but I never really knew like what CF was. I mean, I didn't put two and two together until third grade when I was on the playground and I was running out and I started coughing. And I kind of realized, okay, this cough isn't going to go away. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life. This is why I go to the doctor every 2 to 3 months for breathing tests and to get weighed and to get shots and stuff. So I kind of put all that together in third grade. But that didn't change how I acted or how I interacted with people. I just said, okay, this is what it is. And
Yeah, just was our normal, I guess.
yeah.
And another thing about that is like even for recess, like I remember like if it was cold, like snowy. I mean, Piper, you're from Colorado, so I know that my mom would always like never let me go out for recess for those days, that it was super cold, and I always had to wear like an undershirt, and then for Halloween I always had to wear like a heavy coat over my costume. So it's like things like that, but they were just like the things that I had to do, and I didn't really think too much about it. It's just part of the diagnosis.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, I had a similar experience in the sense that cystic fibrosis wasn't made like the focal point of my life. But mine was a little different because so when I was diagnosed with CF, there was a family that lived next door to my family. And they had a young daughter who was 2 months older than I am. And they immediately, when I was diagnosed, sort of dove into helping us, like fundraise for CF and stuff like that. And after a couple of years, I think at like 2 years, the mother got pregnant with her second child. And my mom went to her and said, it's funny because your kid seems to show a lot of the same symptoms that my child does. And it turned out that she has cystic fibrosis. She's 33 as well and doing great. And her younger sister, she has two younger sisters now, but the younger sister that her mother was pregnant with at that time also had CF. So I grew up with like two next door neighbors who I think it was actually my sister who was the odd duck out, because like we all did treatment together, and this was pre-infection control. Obviously, we didn't know anything about that, but we used to have like sleepovers, and so I had this friend base, and we didn't go to the same school, and I actually moved away when we were fairly young, but we continued to stay in touch. So I had this like friend base that sort of normalized it for me really early on. And so I got this sense that like, oh, well, okay, this is something I do, but it's not something that I has to define me because I didn't feel super different about it, which I guess is sort of a cool experience given that there's only 30,000 of us in the country. Like, how did three of us end up next door to each other in Colorado Springs, Colorado? Yeah. But at the same time, I think there were little things that maybe I wasn't super aware of. Like my family moved to Texas for a little while, and we moved to Houston, and it was too humid for me. So they ended up moving us back to Colorado, which is really dry and like really good for lung diseases. So that I didn't really have a say in that decision, but CF was still like there, it was part of the background of our lives.
Right. I mean, we obviously connected with other patients at CF camp where there were hundreds of us, running around and calling.
You went to CF camp?
Yeah, a couple of years.
So did I, a couple of years, yeah.
I didn't, but we had one in Colorado, and it was like supposed to sound like a Native American name, because that's big in Colorado. And it was called Camp Whack and Hack. And I totally remember like whack and hack. I assume, but it was like funny. It was one word. It was supposed to sound like some weird tribe, the Whack and Hack tribe.
Wow.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and then I remember like hospital admissions were like just a giant party.
Yes.
We have like water fights and wheelchair races.
IV pole races? Did you do pole skating races? That's what
we did not do those. No, I did get grounded to my room once, but we had walkie-talkies. So Good times for sure.
Oh, I
Good
love
old
that. We
days.
had walkie-talkies, so it didn't matter. Did you
It
get
didn't
dropped by
matter.
a nurse or by your parents? That's the question.
By the nurse.
Oh, even better. Even better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I think that's all that we have time for today, but we're going to make this a regular series. So we're going to be back. And so I really hope that all of you guys out there in the CF community will tune back in next month and you'll get to hear more from us and hopefully as we progress from other people with cystic fibrosis as well, maybe even you. So with that said, take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
See you later.